Welcome back to another episode of Life with Lamb. Today I'm here with Quan. Quan is a music producer under the alias Father Joe, if I remain corrected.
Yep.
First podcast today.
Yes.
How
first podcast.
Yeah. How exciting. Quan and I go way back. I entered my first year of university and you were in your second, I believe, or
Third year.
Third year. Amazing. Yeah. Oh wow. So you'd been in the system for quite a little while. Amazing. And we both did commerce, and it's been awesome. Like I expressed off air sort of how I sort of looked up to the pathway that you were going under. Definitely did commerce as well. Dabbled in a few sort of like commerce sort of things, like doing the internships here and there, and but not really like resonating with it. Is that something that is correct about you?
Yeah. So looking back, I don't think it was really right for me. I enjoyed my time, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. It wasn't really something that was for me. Yeah.
Definitely. And I'm keen to unpack it as well. Today we'll be talking predominantly about sort of that schooling system, that funnel system, growing up as an Asian Australian, and I guess sort of like where you're taking your life at the moment, which is pretty exciting. Like got a lot of travel plans, a lot of creative sort of gigs coming up, which is really exciting. So I'm putting the pressure on you. It's all live on air, which is good.
Let's go.
I find that like recording that and saying those sorts of things on like live sort of podcasting is a good way to motivate some people. So I'm keen for it. But for the listeners, I guess, like talk to us a bit about yourself. Who is Quan? What does he do? What does he love?
Okay, so I'm Quan. I'm 22. Born and raised in Melbourne. Did high school here. Did my education here. For me, I love music. Studied, after commerce, like Jaden mentioned, I studied audio production at RMIT. And for the most part right now, been doing audio production, music production, and just my own music on the side.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What's it been like born in sort of Melbourne and dabbling into the music scene? I feel like it's something that as you grow older, you sort of see more and more of these gigs and these people who are sort of dabbling into the music scene. Like, what's it all been like?
It's crazy. It's like everyone kind of just has like their hand in it. Like somehow someone knows a DJ, someone knows a photographer, someone goes to like events every weekend. There's like that joke that when you hit 20 in Melbourne, either you pick up like a deck or you pick up a guitar. Yeah, but I kind of feel it's like that, or just like anything creative based.
Yeah, amazing. Has it always been like that for you? Obviously, like the 20 joke is apparent, but have you always enjoyed music on the side? Like as a kid, did you play any instruments growing up? Those sorts of things?
So as a kid, I did piano and violin.
Classic.
Yeah. Had to give up the violin though. It was just too much hassle to carry around. It's just like extra bag. Like I can't be taking that.
I see the imagery of like a lot of high school students, especially cello players.
Don't
like,
get me started.
I cannot believe cello players, like they have to lug around that big hunk of a instrument. Like, oh my gosh.
So they're just like, go with a double bass. Just leave it at school. Yeah.
That's it.
Don't need to bring anywhere.
Fair enough.
But yeah, stuck with piano because that's easy. Again, leave it at school, have one at home. But for me, I feel like music, it was kind of just like, during high school, it wasn't really something I wanted to do like full time or anything like that. It was just kind of a hobby, like just freestyling with mates, you know, the classic teenagers. But as I got into like uni, started getting to lockdown, I was kind of like, well, like what do I really want to do? Started making like more fleshed out songs, like starting upgrading my software, and then I'm like, yeah, I can go with this.
Definitely, man. Do you mind me asking like why sort of music wasn't seen as a full-time sort of career? Was it the fact that, you know, sometimes when you're an Asian Australian, there's this funnel that parents love to put you through, and it's the one that sort of leads to more security and stability. Is that like a major influence as to why you didn't consider music full-time?
I think so, yeah. I remember like high school, I was kind of the only two career paths that I was really considering at the time was medicine and just commerce, or maybe engineering as well. But I remember taking, it's the UMAT or UCAT?
UCAT, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember taking that, did not go well, but I was just like, I'll just keep my options open. But yeah, definitely like not music oriented at all, just career wise.
100%. And I guess like you hear about this sort of funnel sort of thing, and coming out of sort of the final stages of it, you know, like you finish uni, finish studying, like tertiary education, you know, ticked it off the box, checked it off the box as well. But sort of now you're in this, would you say gap year sort of situation?
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Started off the year with like a trip to Europe, Euro winter. Yeah.
All right, freezing.
And then just like buckled down, came back. I'm like, yeah, I want to release an EP. I want to focus, buckle down on this, see where I can go with it. But yeah.
100%. So what were you like as a kid? You know, like you talk about the instrument playing and the focus on sort of those three pathways, like engineering, commerce, and medicine. Other than that, like, what were you like? What sort of schools did you go to? And what were the conversations surrounding that? I think I remember back when I was sort of in year 10, those career conversations became really apparent where you know, you start doing your work experience, you sit down with your careers counsellor, you're chatting about sort of like what you like to do, and then they sort of funnel you into this course that would suit you, and you know, you should go to uni, this is what you should do, sort of thing. Like, what was it all like?
I feel like, well, from a kid to like year 12, I feel like I was a bit competitive, as most like Asian Australians are. But I was pretty academic at the time. I was very focused on just like studies, trying to get the best results I could. One thing about the careers, I went to St. Kevin's, and one thing I remember specifically was they actually didn't have that much of a scope in terms of like telling you where to go. I was talking to my mate like a couple of weeks ago. He's doing, IT now. He wants to do like quantitative trading, but they were like, nah, computer science, like not really a thing. I remember him telling me about it. Like his IT teacher was like, yeah, just don't go down this pathway, that sort of thing. And then it goes back to that thing where it was like commerce, engineering, medicine, and I don't think there was much stuff for like arts or anything. I have a friend who's doing teaching now, and he did like no maths, and then career counselors, they were just like, yeah, you should do a maths basically. Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, it's interesting. I think like at such a young age, you're exposed to these sorts of conversations. So you sort of like can't predict where you're going to go. And it's evident with the computer science thing. Like it's such a big and relevant topic at the moment.
Yeah.
So shout out to that teacher that suggested that.
I think she said some worse things to him as well, but
really?
He didn't tell me.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, you sort of keep those things sort of in closed doors. In a way, like you almost feel ashamed if you don't have something lined up or you don't sort of know what you're doing. I know I personally felt that way, like entered that sort of careers counselling thing and didn't really know what I wanted to do. So then it was like the next best thing is you probably set yourself like a really high academic sort of target. So it's like, you know, you're 90 plus ATAR, 95 plus ATAR. Is that something that sort of occurred to you? Yeah,
for me, it was like, I didn't do any subjects that I liked, but they were all like scaled up. So it was just like the safety net. So I could get into any degree that I wanted. So what did I do? I did like English, like 3 sciences, methods, and then Japanese.
Nice.
But if I could go back in time, just tell my like younger self, like just do like revs, do like literature. Because like English was my favorite subject at school. So it's like, yeah.
You got a really good score for English, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
By disclosing, are we going to release this on the pod?
Okay. It was a 49.
Gee whiz. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And was that something, so that was something that you say you were pretty passionate about?
Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoyed English. It was a very good subject to do, especially when like you get into the nitty gritty of it. I think, yes, you're sort of relating it back to a text, but I think that subject in itself is pretty applicable to like how you approach real life and the interactions that you have in a uni space, in a workplace, and those sorts of things. So yeah, I loved English for what it was.
Yeah. That's my English teacher as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's always you always get either a really good English teacher or you just get like, I don't know, not a not very good English teacher. I don't know if I can generalize like that, but that's probably like what I heard, because I definitely had a really good English teacher, and then heard some stories where other people did not necessarily have it. And there's such an importance of English in the BCE curriculum as well. So cheeky hack out there for you people doing BCE, you should definitely hone in on English. I know I tell my brother to like really dial in, because like the weighting is predominantly placed on your English, and then it's your other 3 subjects that make up that 4 that you do partake in. Amazing. And sort of like, how have your parents been in this whole thing? You know, like, had they always pushed you down the engineering, medicine, or commerce path? Is that sort of the conversation that was had?
I think, back in the day, that was mainly the direction they wanted me to go in. But I know, thankfully, like, they were supportive of anything else that I wanted to do. Because coming out of high school, I actually took an arts degree for a semester. That kind of relates back to like, what I want to do. Like, I had commerce available to me, but I didn't take it at the time. I was just like, what's there to do? And my parents, thankfully, they're like, just as long as you do it, just be the best at it, be good at it. That's all that matters to us. So, thankful for them.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. Like, I think when parents can foster and nurture that sort of environment and not dictate sort of like the pathway that you necessarily have to pigeonhole yourself into, it can be really supportive for the kid. And really, I think really encouraging as well. Like, the kid will then be, I guess, not forced to, but encouraged to find out what exactly it is that they do like, and sort of pursue that there. So definitely grateful, like, for my parents as well. They've definitely been amazing in this whole experience of, you know, navigating your why and sort of like what you want to get into. I want to talk about, two things. I want to talk about sort of the idea that you said you used to be really academically inclined. Do you feel like that's dropped off?
Yeah, 100%. After high school, man, it's like skipping classes at uni, like just behind on assignments. Like, that would not be year 12 me.
100%. Yeah. Peaked in high school.
Something like
Peaked
that.
in high school, gang. Let's go. I for one, I'm the same. Like, literally was so switched on year 12, and then it comes into uni where like the independence is a thing, and you're not spoon fed these sorts of things. So I've definitely felt it. Like, we're all human. It happens. But just like such an interesting conversation, that one, because never would I have thought at 18-year-old self, never would I have thought 18-year-old Jaden in year 12 would let sort of an assignment fall behind, or those sorts of things. So it's sort of a hard like pill to swallow at the time, because your ego's so high. You're like, I did well in high school, and now I'm at this elite or prestigious institution. How could I have ever let myself fall behind or get I guess like swamped by the content that they're giving us? But it's definitely a real thing.
Yeah, like play games all week, and then go out all weekend. It's like, oh shit, I'm behind.
Yeah, literally, it all catches up. Mm-hmm. And then the second thing I wanted to touch on was St. Kevin's. Yeah, it's such a controversial, or it was back in the high school sort of scene. It was a very controversial topic and point of discussion, where you had the sort of grooming instances. There was the person that was was burning the blazer on the oval. I do remember that popping up in the news, and also the idea of like the gay chants on the tram. Yeah, there has not been sort of that good of a coverage for St. Kevin's, and the reputation that they have is pretty tainted, I would say. What was it like actually attending the school? Can you dispel any sort of rumours, or like were the media outlets true?
Yeah. So this is something I kind of have to tread carefully with. I'm obviously not like a representative for the school. But for the most part, I do think, or I do know that a lot of what the media says is true. Like stuff about the grooming, 100%. Like there was the full-on documentary back in the day. Like I personally witnessed it, but at the time I didn't really know what it was, and probably didn't know better. But again, that's not really on me, because I was just a kid back then. In terms of like the culture, like, it's an all boys school. Kind of has that sort of elite toxic masculinity vibe to it. I'll pause here for a sec.
Of course.
I think, that's true. I can see it happening. There's a lot of like locker room talks, very macho. You're kind of like in the group or you're out of the group, that sort of thing. I didn't personally experience it too bad, so I'm not going to say like I had a terrible time at St. Kevin's, but in the same vein, I know like a bunch of other people who weren't, in that group. They didn't have the greatest time. One of my closest friends, actually, we went to see a play at St. Kevin's last year, and as we were driving there, he actually mentioned that it was kind of hard for him to come back. Yeah, just because like just some memories and all that. But yeah, that's kind of my big overall take on St. Kevin's. Hopefully not too sweeping, but I will take solace in the fact that most of the people I went to school with, they know so much better these days, which is like really encouraging. Just like seeing people post like, things in support of like LGBTQ rights, things in support of like First Nations rights, that sort of thing. And then I'm thinking those people, it's like, I don't think you would do that 5-6 years ago, but now like people have changed. Yeah.
And it shows that, growth is possible in a human. And I think there's so much waiting on things that happen in high school when you're at such a young age and, the hormones are high. You don't necessarily make the best decisions. And it sort of shows that, you can change. And I guess like, I don't know if that's naive in a way, but definitely there's room for improvement for anyone and not everyone's perfect. So it's awesome to see that, I guess, the changes are happening. And thank you for prefacing as well. Like, obviously, don't want to throw you under the bus with like the St. Kevin's talk as well. But I think like it is an important sort of topic to brush over as well. Like whether the idea of, that culture has manifested in yourself. Like, would you say it did at points in time?
I think so as well. I feel like for me being Asian and going to that like sort of school, there was always like a need to stand out, need to be like better because, like I look different to everyone. So I need to find a way to differentiate myself. And I feel like that kind of relates in part to like why I'm so into like these creative fields. There was this thing I like used to say to myself, it's like, people are already going to look at me differently. Like, why not give them a reason to? Yeah.
I fucking love that. That's awesome, bro. Did that manifest pretty early, would you say? Like, the need to stand out. And we do for the most part. Like, we do look a bit different. Like different complexion in the skin. Different facial structures and features and names as well. Like, names is such a big thing. Like, Quan is definitely not like your typical, like Aussie name. Like, did that manifest pretty early? Like, when did you sort of clock onto the fact that, like, I'm going to be different, so why not make it sort of the reality that it is?
Yeah, I think for me it was like year 7 was the biggest standout point, because the way St. Kevin's worked was like, I think it was like 4 classes of year 6s, and then get to high school, that doubles to like, well, more than doubles, it goes to 9 classes. So there was like a group of 100 boys maybe, and that went to 270. So it's like, damn, there's so many people, like I need to stand out how. So I was like the loudmouth kid, always cracking jokes, even if they like, I knew they were bad. So just like I said them anyways. Yeah, people got sick of me, but it's like, yeah, that's me. Yeah.
And have you ever sort of outgrown that? Because I guess like some people might be listening and they're like, oh, like very attention seeking, like disruptive behavior, those sorts of things sort of pop into mind. And then you sort of come into like the adult world, quote unquote. And then if you demonstrate those sort of qualities, you're considered like immature, like loud-mouthed, and it doesn't sort of ring quite nicely on the tongue. Like,
yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like with mates, I'm still that kid.
100%.
Yeah. But I guess I'm more quote unquote normal now. Less loud.
I hate that terminology. I'm not gonna lie, like quote unquote normal. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm calm now.
Bit more tame.
Yeah.
It's like reading the room. Hey.
Yeah.
100%.
I'll stand out different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, man. So talk to us about the uni experience as well. So you've transitioned through St. Kevin's, survived it. quote unquote. I'm putting such a negative twist on it. No, you've made it through sort of high school.
Yeah.
You know, achieved a very good score. Like a 49 English is probably, yeah, I don't know, very indicative of a pretty high score. And obviously you're at Melbourne, so the standards are pretty high for the institution. I'll credit that. What was the conversation like? So you did the arts degree for a semester, was it? And then where did that sort of take you?
Yeah. So for me, started off in arts. I think I came back from holiday. I was like, it was a couple weeks before. I was still like unsure what course to take. Thinking back, it was probably a coin flip that decided it. I left it to fate like that. So went to arts. I did a very random assortment of subjects. Again, arts was very unfocused. It was broad. It's not bad or anything. I feel like that's good if you're looking for that. Once you kind of dial in and what you want to know, like, so what you want to do, then that's great for you. But for me, that lack of focus didn't really help either. So finished the semester, passed everything, thankfully. Nothing caught up to me too bad. And then had a pretty decent holiday. It was a good, fun holiday. One of my closest mates, Matt, he came back from Japan for the holiday. And then one of my other mates, Wilson, he was actually taking the semester off. And then he was planning to come back the next semester as well. And he did commerce, kind of a very similar experience to me, where he wasn't really sure what he wanted to do. First and second semester didn't go that great, actually. Hope he doesn't mind me talking about that. But yeah, so he was like, all right, I'm going to buckle down, hop back into commerce, see what happens. And that was kind of like the catalyst for me. Because we were like friends at the time, but we kind of got really close during that holiday. I'm like, yeah, you know, at least I have someone like that's really close I can do commerce with. We can study together. And then come semester 2, hopped back into it, got our subjects sorted together, and yeah, went through it. Better than last semester, not by much, actually. Yeah, not by much. Yeah,
We'll take it.
yeah, passed, and then I was like, yeah, I'll stick with this. Out of all the subjects, I really enjoyed like economics the most. I think mainly because it was like theory based, a lot of like rational decision making, that sort of thing. So I'm like, yeah, I'll stick with it. I'll see how it goes for a bit. And then, yeah, that was second semester done. What do I do next? Studied over summer. And then come semester 1, I was kind of having those thoughts again. This was semester 1 of second year, by the way. And then COVID hit. So I was like, damn, that was the big thing for me. Looking back, I don't think if there was no COVID, I don't think I would have stuck with commerce. But because like at the time, you know, can't really go out, can't really head to the studio or whatnot. So it was just like stuck at home. I'm like, you know what, I'll just study. Got promoted at work, so that was cool. And then at the same time, with all that time, like just picked up like more and more on the audio production side of things. So I was studying for like 3-4 hours a day at max, because it was just easy, like lecture, shoot, done. Maybe revise some content, whatever. And it's like, well, I have another 12 hours. What am I going to do with it? Like if I play games more, I'm going to be like sick. So I was like, yeah, just work on music. And at the time there were a lot of like deals with like the music production software, because everyone realized, you know, everyone's at home. So was it Ableton? They had like a trial for 30 days, but during lockdown they extended it to like 3 or 6 months, something like that. So I used 2 of those during the year. And then yeah, that kind of like fueled my big love for it at the time, because I was just like honed in, just coming up with chords, just like while I sleep, something like that. Just wake up, just, you know, writing out drum patterns, whatnot. And then, yeah, end of 2020 came in a lockdown and I finally bought the software. So officially owned it, have been using it ever since. but yeah, that's kind of been my like progression. Oh, and then did my last year again. It was marred by the fact that we were in lockdown for like 8 months again, and then coming out of that, I'm like, like I gotta put my foot down. I'll like do something I actually enjoy. And then I took up the Diploma of Sound Production at RMIT, which was super fun. Met some very cool people. Everyone's just like super focused on their own like fields, disciplines, their own genres. And there's so many like open options to it. People doing like film audio now. People are doing like video game audio. Or what was it? Audio books. That's like a huge industry as well.
Serious.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack there. I'm glad you sort of like told the whole timeline and the spiel of it. I want to take back sort of to the beginning and just sort of talk a little bit on that, because I can definitely agree with the fact that yes, it's great that universities are offering sort of like a broader approach, and then it sort of narrows in as you get to your sort of like penultimate and like your final year as well. On that, sometimes it can sort of add to the confusion, and you most definitely experience that. Like, fresh 18, graduated high school, still don't sort of know what you want to do. And this is like, I'm speaking on behalf of myself as well, because I definitely felt that. But you've got this like really good score, so it's like the first thing you look to is like the best institution that you can go to, and currently that's probably like Melbourne and Monash.
Yeah.
Sorry to those other people, like it can sound very elitist, but like that's what we're sort of pitched.
Yeah.
And then I know with like Melbourne, it was very like the first year was so broad. So, for us doing commerce, it's like you do your economics units, you have to do your finance units, accounting units, management, marketing is on the side as well as sort of electives. Am I forgetting something else? I'm forgetting maybe like your quant, which is economics as well. But you sort of spread yourself pretty thin and then sort of narrow your way up, and that's sort of it's like in a way it's good, like they're sort of accommodating for that. But I also am a heavy advocate for, if you really don't know what you want to do, like don't look straight to uni for it as well. Like do some traveling, 100%. Just like find those experiences, maybe work part-time abroad or somewhere. Like find those experiences to sort of find yourself, instead of being in that first year and finding yourself in there but still having sort of like a structure. It's like this weird, like you have freedom but not really sort of thing. And then the second point I want to bring up is the idea of COVID. So it's sort of like sad in a way that, if COVID didn't happen, you probably wouldn't have finished the commerce degree. Likewise as well, it was like, well, we're in COVID, I might as well just like get this piece of paper and go through like first year uni, second year, first semester of second uni as well in COVID. And it's pretty sad for like our cohort or our generation of students where, we don't have the option to study abroad because COVID inhibited a lot of it, and we just did the course because there was nothing else to do. Like, what were you going to do? Sit in your room or work part-time? Like, they were handing out government payments and those sorts of things, so you might as well have taken advantage of that. So that one's a really interesting discussion, because I think more than ever, so many of us are like pigeonholed into this like one bachelor's degree because we had to do it, or there was nothing else to do. So sort of in a way, like COVID was pretty detrimental, like health-wise. I think like everyone was sort of stuck at home, isolated, and you can see that in social interactions now. Everyone's more sort of like on their phones more than ever, avoiding those social interactions. Like I go for walks around like the neighborhood these days, and I think people sort of like look down and they don't really want to interact. I don't know if that's like because I'm like a bit younger or those sorts of things, but I find really I find like a lot of enjoyment and fulfillment by just saying like good morning to people when they walk around. I don't know like what the science is around that, but like social interaction is such an important thing. But also this idea of like this cohort of students just like sort of stuck in this thing that maybe I don't want to put a specific percentage on it, but I think a lot of people would have dropped out if they could.
I think so as well. Like between like my mates, I feel like there's this decent sentiment. It's like, oh, I should have done this instead. Oh, I should have done this. It's like a lot of things in retrospect, but it is what it is, hey. What's
that like, sort of navigating that retrospect, because you're now living it? Like you look back now at COVID and you're sort of, well, you actually took the right steps. Like you started dabbling into music and you started dabbling into the production side of things. Like what sort of shifted that mindset? Like I know a lot of people probably reverted to the games or just reverted to, just texting people on social media and not trying to seek that next step to sort of further themselves. Like what sort of struck that inspiration?
For me, it was like the idea of wasting my youth. It is a bit contradictory to like one of my other lines of thinking, but I'll expand on that a bit later. I was just thinking like, well, I'm going to come out of this degree. I'll be 20 by the time I finish. It's like, I don't really want to work. What else do I want to do? You know, they say chase your dreams while you're young. So I'm like, yeah, why not? I'll go for it. It's something that I was kind of fixated on. I had some mates who did the course before, glowing recommendations. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go through with it.
Amazing. That's an awesome rhetoric. What was the other one? I'm curious now.
Yeah, it's you move how you move. So I can't remember where it came from. I think it was like some genius interview with Playboy Cardi or something like that. He was talking about Frank Ocean or something.
Yeah.
But I kind of took it as the way like, everyone's running their own race. Like, don't let someone else's achievements like downplay yours or anything like that. You know, you move at your own pace, especially like during COVID as well. Everyone's kind of stuck at the same pace. So like, don't be in such a rush, you know, just to catch up or anything while you've gotten out. And like, looking back at those two statements, yeah, I can see how they can be very contradictory. But I guess one's like a motivating factor. So like chasing dreams while you're young, that's for me, like that's motivating to like go out and do things. But also like when I move how I move, that's kind of, you know, just taking a step back, you know, just calm me down whenever I like feel nervous about things, get anxious about, you know, oh, what's the future going to be like? So just take a step back, just breathe. Yeah. And then, yeah.
I love both actually. I really resonate with both. And I think, yeah, the move how you move, or yeah, move how you move.
Yeah.
I think that rhetoric is amazing. Like more than ever, people are branching out into different things because we finally, like we're free, you know, like you're able to go venture and do those sorts of things. So I'm finding that for the cohort that sort of did the degree for the sake of doing the degree, they're sort of still like taken aback and like taking that step back and being like, okay, like what do I actually want to do? Yeah. And then for other people, it's like, okay, like I've done it. Like, why don't I go into that grad job or do that internship or, you know, travel the world, go see those sorts of things. So it's like, yeah, move how you move. It's unfortunate and fortunate, social media, like such a double-edged sword. Like you're always scrolling and comparing yourself to sort of like, oh, this person went to this restaurant or this person's traveling or wow, this person on LinkedIn like did this event and
LinkedIn is so bad, bro.
LinkedIn is crazy. Like, amazing for portfolio work and you know, like achievements and stuff, but wow, like that app, I found myself sort of like going off it because I just get like so overwhelmed with the amount of messages and achievements that is going around, and that comparison paralysis is such a thing. You sort of look within and you're like holy fuck, like what am I doing with my life? Exactly. Like I am not doing anything with my life, whereas all these people are like started this new brand job or started ran this event, facilitated this event, and co-hosted XYZ. So, that double-edged sword of social media is such an inhibitor for the you move how you move. And I think to be able to block out that noise and come back to that statement is such a powerful skill to have. Do you have any sort of advice for navigating that, or are you sort of experiencing that comparison paralysis?
I think... yeah, for me, at the moment, I am experiencing a bit of it because I'm trying to balance, like, my audio stuff with, like, the corporate stuff. Because right now, I started training for another job, just, like, corporate tech sales. But I'm going to start that a bit later. But, you know, just going on LinkedIn, seeing, like, old mates from high school, seeing, like, their titles and whatnot. It's like, damn, like, I could be earning 6 figures or something like that. But... it's like you said, like the social media thing, it's so big. So some days I just, you know, take a step away, kind of just listen to like my instincts, go to the gym, just take a walk, listen to some music, just kind of block everything out. I know it's a bit hard like in this digital world, hey, but I think like that's what's worked best for me. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, nothing better than like, I don't know, going to the gym or doing something that's taking yourself away from that screen and yeah, really dissociating from that. It's like dissociating from social media sort of thing. Yeah, interesting conversation. And then the idea of your motivating factor of like live youth while you're young. It's like while you're young, like take these experiences, take the opportunity to make risk, do something for yourself, or yeah, I guess like doing something for yourself, and that doesn't necessarily mean like entrepreneurial like yourself, like creating audio and producing and mixing, or like myself, it's like creating podcasts, shooting episodes with those sorts of people, or with really cool guests, as a matter of fact. Like make the most of it sort of thing. Yeah. Like when in the future will sort of you get this time to be able to experience it and be able to learn and take these lessons and sort of be more free with your time.
Yeah, exactly. I think as well, like there's this sort of thing with like second generation immigrants where our parents kind of give us these opportunities. They kind of want us to go into like that sort of pigeonhole, but at the same time they've come to like these countries, and I know it does sound like kind of privileged, but like they did give us that privilege to like explore our youth. You know, they sacrificed, you know, things, escaping from war so that we could have a better youth than they did. So I'm going to try and make the most out of it.
Definitely. There was this podcast like way back when that I did with James Hargraves, and he grew up sort of like in the inner east suburbs, like went to a private school, had all these opportunities, started his own business, and he's very aware of the fact that he is privileged. But I think one thing that resonated with me was like, I am privileged, so why should I shy away from that? Like I should use it to make the most of it as well. And I don't know, you can sort of have your own take on that sort of rhetoric, but I really love that. And I think like a few years back there were all these social media posts that were sort of like bashing people for like their privilege, and you know, like, oh, like why, like, oh, what was it? It was like, yeah, bashing people for their privilege. But I think when you flip the lens and you can take in the fact that yes, we are privileged, but then have the idea of how do I use that in a way to better other people, like that is such a powerful way to go about life. And we live in Australia, like the opportunities are so vast, and like the opportunity to go to university is like there for us, although you know there's like debt and everything, but like we have such
no upfront.
Yeah, exactly. No upfront, and we don't have to pay international fees unless, you know, you're traveling elsewhere, but even then there's loans for that. So we're so lucky with the opportunities that we have. So it's like, why sort of rush this career trajectory? Like try and find yourself and see what makes you tick.
Yeah, exactly. Like I know so many friends, they kind of delayed their last year of uni just so they could go on exchange. They're just living up. Like I see their Instagram, like 4 countries in like a week or something like that, and then it's like back for the weekend for study or something like that. It's crazy.
Insane.
Yeah.
I love that so much. In a way, do you like look retrospectively and wish you did something like that?
I was actually considering, so before like COVID hit, I was considering doing an exchange. But you know, once COVID hit, it was like, let's get it over and done with. Yeah.
100%, man. And let's talk about the audio production and everything. Like you've taken the, was it diploma? Yeah. What was that all like? You talk about sort of the different individuals that you sort of come across, the certain industries and genres that are so apparent. And I love that about like each industry. Like it isn't just the music industry. There's so many different niches within an industry that you can get into. What's that all been like?
It's crazy. So I remember like the first day of the diploma, like there were so many different people. Like there was 40-year-olds, there was like freshly graduated 18-year-olds, people like me. It was such a like vast array of people. A lot of the people came from like different backgrounds. So some were like already musicians, some had no music knowledge whatsoever, some were like music adjacent, so they were doing like audio visual sort of stuff. So they had the background in that, and it was really cool. Just like everyone would go down to the pub every Friday, just have a chat. You know, we start like getting to learn more about each other. We had like our own little family. It was really cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And where would you say like most of your practice or craft would come from? Was it like sort of slaving away during COVID, practicing, learning sort of drum patterns and how to mix and those sorts of things? Or would you say the diploma really helped in that aspect?
I feel like in terms of music, that was kind of like high school days, just building like the foundation, music theory and whatnot. My sort of general knowledge came during COVID when I started picking it up, just watching like YouTube tutorials, but like really honing it in was at RMIT because they have so much money. Like their studios, it's crazy. They have like this one mixing desk like that, but it's like built into a desk.
No way, that's sick.
100K made to order, and it's like no drinks, like 5 feet from the table.
Oh, 100%, man. Oh, fair enough. That's like bare minimum, I reckon.
Yeah.
At that point. And sort of like, where do you see yourself taking your music? Like, can you describe it for the listeners?
Yeah. Oh, good question.
Yeah.
Me, I'd say like if I were to hone in on genre, alternative R&B, not like classic R&B because it's kind of mixed with like sort of modern sort of ambient noises. Sorry, no, not noises, but like ambient genres. Kind of inspired by like people like Joji, Frank Ocean, Brent Fayez, like lyrically Phoebe Bridgers, which is a bit of a random one.
I haven't heard of their music.
Yeah, she's like a indie folk. Yeah. She came to Melbourne started this year. Very good concert. It was a bit upsetting.
Oh, a bit upsetting?
Yeah, her dad recently passed away.
Oh, okay.
And then she had like a bad relationship with him, something like that. And then there's this song that's specifically about her dad. And like at the start of it, she was just talking about her dad. And I was like, I did not need to hear this. Like, I'm here for the music. But it's like, stop.
You weren't here for the trauma dump.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Oh my God. Okay, cool. Yeah, and I guess you listen predominantly to sort of that genre of music and you take a lot of inspiration from it. I sort of want to pause and see if we can play like your track on here.
Yeah, sure.
Do you reckon are you happy for me to do that?
Yeah, yeah.
Alrighty, let's pause for a little bit.
Wait,
Alrighty, I think we're back. We're gonna test something completely new. I'm gonna put the headphones on just to make sure that we are recording properly.
Yeah.
And that we can listen to it. But can you talk to us a bit about what you're about to play? The sort of work that's gone behind it as well?
Yep. So this is a song with me and 2 other mates. They're both Matts. I call one Wang and I call one the other one Matt. But my mate Wang, he reached out to me after I released my first 2 songs. We were just chatting about it, and then he's like, "Oh, I've always wanted to record." And then I'm like, just come to the studio. I know how to like mix. I feel like we have a similar vocal style, so I can use like the same sort of effects, etc. on him. And yeah, he pulled up, other Matt pulled up, and then we just freestyled for a bit, wrote some lyrics, got a reference track in, and then this is kind of close to a final product. I'd say we're like 70% there. I need to master it still. I need to finish like some lines as well. There's like a awkward silence where it's like, oh yeah, I haven't recorded that yet. So just
Fair enough. Alrighty, get ready to play it. Well, hopefully this will work, man.
Could you walk away? I'm still holding on. How could you walk away? I'm still holding on. You always say stuck in my head, like you're stuck in my head, like you want replay again.
I don't give a fuck what they say about us. Fucked up in the past, she thinks she don't deserve love. Man, that's not for you to decide. So can you fight? Can you fight for us? Can you fight for me?
You know it's on side, roll up under my bed. You know it's not right when you're on my head. Just know we got time, fuck the things we both said. We're on the wrong side, back to where we done left. I'll be the person that you need. We both got sides, I ain't talking about two-piece meals we both shared are like memories in loose leaf. Burn that shit up, know the smoke is intrusive. I ain't see you in some time. Words don't make sense that you said. Leave it to dry, but you know that it's bled. She don't want protection, doesn't mean that you're red. Is it my place to go say that? Girl, I can take it, I had to go face. No, don't leave me out. No, don't go leaving me out.
I don't give a fuck what they say about us. Fucked up in the past, she thinks she don't deserve love. Man, that's not for you to decide. So can you fight? Can you fight for us? Can you fight for me?
How could you walk away? I'm still holding on. How could you walk away? I'm still holding on.
He always takes my film photos. Got like a bunch of promo photos.
Thank you for that. Do you have a name for that song?
Fight for me.
Fight for me.
Yeah.
Definitely. I loved it. Wow.
Appreciate it.
So good. Oh my god. Well, that's a sneak preview for all the listeners. Hopefully they find it, I reckon.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about it? Like where to begin?
Okay, so it was after I released my first two songs, Real One and The Other Side. I had my mate Matt Wang reach out to me. I'll call him Wang because there's two Matts in this story. But he reached out to me. He was like, yeah, congrats on the release. Really liked how the vocals sounded. And he mentioned that he wanted to like record as well. And I was like to him, yeah, I know how like effects go. I feel like we have a similar sort of vocal style. I reckon we just use like a similar preset to mine on your voice and we'll see how that turns out. So he booked in a studio session, had some ramen beforehand, like a lot of ramen.
Is that the secret recipe?
I think so. It's just carbs up. So
Carbs?
like your lungs are a bit compressed, but like you have more energy.
That's it. The payoff, I reckon. There's
Yeah.
always a payoff. So you've hit up the stewed,
Yep.
full of ramen.
Full of ramen. Other Matt pulls up. We just look for instrumentals. There's this guy, I've worked with him in like Toronto, I think. He's cool. And then we found some of his instrumentals and then we're like really vibing with it. So just freestyling for a bit, just figuring out melodies, figuring out lyrics. And then we're just like super happy with it. Like we got nowhere close to done, but we had like an idea of what we wanted to do. So we got home, started practicing, started writing our lyrics, rehearsing, and then we booked in for like maybe a week or two after that. And then, yeah, just recorded, and that's the result. I still need to record some lines. Like, there's a bit of a silence, but yeah, it's pretty close to done, like 70%.
Amazing.
Just some final touches, yeah.
I feel like with creatives, you always hear them say, oh, like I could have done like this, like I need to fill in that, and it's just like to the Gen Pop, you sort of just like don't recognize those sorts of like intricacies. So it's awesome, like, and you seem so passionate about it as well. Have you experienced sort of like any writer's block or yeah, I guess like the perfection paralysis? Have you heard of that as well?
Yeah, like 100% to both. Like sometimes everything will be good, like you're so excited to head to the studio or whatnot, and you get there, sit down, and it's like nothing's coming out. Like I was singing like Mary Had a Little Lamb or something like that, and yeah, just nothing come out. And like the perfection paralysis as well happened with like the first 2 releases, but I just had to like sit down and say, okay, I gotta release this. Like I've been putting it off for like a month, like for mixing just like final touches here and there, but I'd listen back, I'm like, oh, there's like a tiny little click here. And then I'd ask like my mates, can you hear that? And like, hear what? And I'm like, no, there's a click there, 100%. But then, so I'd do that for like 2-3 weeks, but I'm like, you know what, just let's get it over and done with, release it, put it out. I think that's like a thing as well you have to overcome. Like I feel like people always think that they can be better. It might be true, might not be, but at some point you just gotta be happy with the final product.
Definitely, man.
Yeah.
I would love to just interject and approach it with the lens of, it's probably really exciting, the fact that, you know, you can't necessarily be perfect. And obviously with podcasting and content creation, I'm always listening back to the way that I phrase questions. Sometimes they're definitely like out of whack and they just don't make sense in real time. And it gets very embarrassing, but I think I get excited for the fact that I can note it and go into the next episode and fix it. And then it's sort of like practicing your craft. So it's approaching it with that lens of I can always get better in every situation, like whether it's, I don't know, like an interview that you're doing or a music that you're writing or, podcasting or content creation or reel creation, like, any sort of thing where you're creating or refining a skill. Like I think approaching it with the lens of this won't be perfect is probably the best way, because it probably never will be. Like say with music, like some of the best soundtracks or tracks there are, like I'm sure the artist is looking back and saying like, oh, I wish I changed that, I wish I flipped up X and Y, but it's like you can't, but people love it for it.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you touched on like a really good point as well. Just like, even if it's not perfect, it's always like a stepping stone to your improvement. Like, how can you do this quicker, more efficiently? Or it's like, well, what can I subtly change as well?
100%. So it's like with podcasting, I think I definitely experienced like not even like writer's block, it's more like the editing block of it, because I knew in my mind for a particular interview back then, like I messed up a phrasing, or I knew that it wasn't necessarily my best interview yet, but I've sort of readapted the lens to be like, well, just like get it out, you can improve from next time, and you can always have another guest back on the show. Like it's not like one and done sort of thing. So it's like about getting that content out there and knowing that there is improvement. And I think another thing that comes to mind, and the theme that comes in for my podcast, is imposter syndrome. I'd love to know like what your stance is on it, but I just know that I've received a lot of advice and a lot of people have talked about it in the lens that you're always going to have imposter syndrome, like it's always going to be there, but I think the lens that you should come with it is you can get better from it. Like you're not always going to be perfect, and in a way it should motivate you to continue to get better, because then you sort of eliminate that gap from being an imposter. But yeah, what's imposter syndrome been like for you?
It was very apparent like when I started the diploma. I remember messaging my friend. He's like he's very into musical theatre and those sort of spheres. I'm like, yo, I'm dealing with like mad imposter syndrome right now. Like there's people who had like 5+ years of like DJing experience, people with like 20 years of like AV experience. It's like I'm coming in with like just kind of a hobby and some music theory, and that's it. And then like what he said to me was, regardless if you deserve to be there or not, like that's up to you, because like that's the imposter part of it. You are there anyways, so just like make your peace with it, enjoy the fact that you're there, and yeah,
Yeah,
That was the
beautiful, man.
biggest thing.
100%. And like you can apply that to anything. So say it's your first time stepping into the gym and you sort of just like don't know what you're doing. Like
Exactly.
you're going to feel like an imposter, but you know, congratulate yourself for the fact that you showed up and you're pulling up there. Make yourself feel proud that you're showing up and continuing to, I guess, put out this work and everything. And like you said, move how you move.
Yeah.
It's going all back. I'd love to know like what you have installed for the future, like where you see this music sort of heading as well.
Yeah. So right now I'm kind of like, I guess the three main like hustles. It's like the corporate one, but that's been, you know, deferred for a little bit. So out of my mind. And the music. So that song you heard, I'm planning to release it, I think October 27th. Save the date. No promises, but I mean, it'd be a good date. Halloween.
Yes.
And then, so I'm going to head over to Tokyo end of October as well. So coinciding with the release. Going with some mates for a holiday for a bit, but I kind of want to like connect with people, sort of network, just find some cool people to hang out with, like really get lost in that sort of big city, see what like the rest of the world has to offer as well. After that, heading to LA, then to NYC. I don't have a return flight yet, but apparently I should, because if they see me without a return flight, they might like deny me entry into the States, like visa dodging or
Serious?
something like that. Yeah.
Damn.
So I'll probably get that sorted, but it's a matter of, just like when. So I can stay for like 3 months, but same idea there, just like meeting cool people, just like rocking up to events alone, just meeting more people.
How important is that aspect to, I guess, you would have had to do it at like uni and those sorts of things, like meeting people for potential job opportunities, but also like within the industry as well. Like how important is it to network?
I feel like, it's very important. I feel like there's a fine line between like you trying to push yourself onto someone and then just wanting to like genuinely connect. I haven't lived in LA, but I've heard that's kind of the vibe there. Everyone's just very cutthroat. They kind of just want to get their name out. They try to get invited to like all these A-lister parties. Melbourne, I feel like it's a lot calmer. Everyone's just super nice, you know. Oh, you make music, I make music, let's make music. Yeah, something like that. That's actually how I met one of my biggest, I wouldn't say he's a client, I can call him a client, but this guy I'm working with, he's a indie film director. He's based out of Melbourne, studying at the moment. I literally met him at a party. What were we talking about? Talking about like Avengers Endgame. He was like a very big film nerd. And then I was like, oh, I'm the young Tony Leung. And then like just saying like really bad like movies, like Avengers isn't bad, but just like film nerds don't like them. It's like, oh yeah, I love Avengers. Every time I'd see him at the party, I'd be like, yeah, how's Avengers going? Something like that. It's still a running joke. That was like 5 months ago now.
Yeah.
But at the end of the party, I'm like, hey man, like if you ever need like sound recordist, sound designer, music, anything like audio related for your movies, let me know. And then I think like 2 weeks later, he's like, hey, I'm shooting a short film. It's for a uni project. I need a sound recordist. And then from there, just good relationship. Just worked on a bunch of his other projects as well. He's invited me to like this whole sphere of like this Melbourne like film industry. A lot of like indie directors, indie actors. There's like this whole like event where you have to make a movie in 48 hours.
Oh, damn. I feel like schools like my school used to host like, you know, the 3 and 6 or something. It's like film like a movie in one day sort of thing. So yeah, those competitions can be really cool and like very much like under the pump, but I think that's like where you develop the most.
Yeah.
As well. It's awesome that sort of discussion around networking, and there's the saying like, oh, it's not what you know, it's who you know, but I want to even extend from that. It's like who knows you as well. I think it's like, it's obviously important if you know certain people, but on the flip side, it's like, do they actually know you, like for what you do? And like the talents that you can bring, because people reach out in that way. Like, let's say between us, like I know you know me, but you knew me for like the podcasting stuff. Yeah. So like you reached out to me. So like how important is that for me to be able to put myself out there as well and have people want to come onto the podcast, if that makes sense. And then it's like happened to you where it's like, oh, you've put your name out there. So this person's like, oh, like, and maybe it's not instantaneous. Like it happened 2 weeks after. It might happen a couple months down the line as well. But people do eventually reach out to you. So the importance of networking and being able to talk about yourself. I know it's a very uncomfortable thing to do, but it's such an important skill as well. Because how else are you going to sort of grasp onto these opportunities?
Exactly.
Yeah.
With like that Melbourne sort of circle as well, it's super nice because everyone's very down to earth. Like no big like Stanley Kubrick like egos or anything like that. No Alfred Hitchcocks. Everyone's just really nice. They're like, oh, everyone's always needs like a sound guy, so I'm always passing along details. People will just rock up there alone just to network as well. So I met this guy. He's doing a gap year, but he finished a VCA last year, I think. And he's like a composer, so we were just talking about that. It's like, hey, if you need me to mix like your soundtracks and whatnot, let me know. And yeah, it's cool like that.
Definitely, it's such a skill to have. Yeah, I love that so much. What would you say your biggest challenge has been so far? Would it be like the navigating career conversations and then actually like picking this up and doing this like sort of full time, or really investing into it? Like, what has been your biggest challenge?
I think for me, it's just like, I'd say, I know you asked for the biggest challenge. I'll give you two. For me, like getting over that initial like roadblock, just like, oh, that I want to get there. I think it was sort of self-imposed. Again, just kind of like from like the environments that we grew up in with that sort of pathway that was instilled in us. So me just like getting over that, just finally releasing my stuff, finally like just connecting with people, that was getting over that was like a huge milestone. And like the second thing is like networking is kind of hard. Just trying to get like my name out there. Like I feel like, what is it? I'm kind of like an extroverted introvert. So I feel like I don't want to just be too pushy. So I won't like just say, oh yeah, this is me, I do this. But if it comes up naturally in conversation, I'll let it happen. But just like kind of getting over that, just meeting all those people like in the film scene, that's kind of just helped ease that sort of anxiety about it a bit.
Definitely. So that first challenge I want to expand on, and then obviously the second one as well. But with that first one, sort of navigating your way around, sort of detaching yourself from that narrative, for people who are seeking to pursue, say, music or say a particular passion of theirs, but you know they've got outside noise that's contributing to this like internalized narrative or expectation that you're trying to live up to. How do you go about breaking away from it?
For me, it's the fact, I'm going to assume like that most people who are in a similar position to me, they're like around the same age as well, kind of young. So for us, like money kind of comes and goes. So you can always start a career later. It goes back to that thing with like, you move how you move, and kind of combining like the chase your dreams sort of thing. You can move more corporate, you can move more like more professional later in life. But for now, it's kind of just like, yeah. Sorry, that was a bad answer.
No, you're all good. I'll even add the layer of like the privilege that we were talking about as well. It's like, we're privileged. You should make the most of your youth, and also we move how we move. Like you can combine all those three together. Like there is a life waiting for us, and whether that's extremely naive and privileged to say, I'm not too sure. But I think like with the sheer amount of expectations about grabbing a degree, everyone has a degree, so everyone's relatively qualified. It's now the idea. I think there's this study in China where everyone is qualified. Like everyone has a degree, so then they don't even consider people with a degree now. It's like they consider people with masters and those sorts of things. Like it's insane. So in a way, like that's pretty terrifying, that aspect of like maybe we're too overqualified. So now it's like this extra step on top of high school with education. That's a completely different discussion. But yeah, we're at this point of time, like we're very employable, you know, like we have this piece of paper, we have all these life skills, the soft skills as well, to be able to talk and present yourself is very important. So yeah, make the most of it when you're young. Take those leaps and bounds, and if you fall, like most of the time we do have sort of this safety net and the luxury of being in Australia, I think. So at least that's like the Australian audience anyway. Like, I don't know if anyone internationally is listening, but yeah, I love that. And that second challenge of networking, like I can relate so heavily to that, like about things coming up naturally in conversation. A lot of the time I'm like with my friends and stuff, and we meet this new person and they're like, oh, my friend is like, oh, by the way, Jaden does a podcast. I'm like, oh my God, like it's so embarrassing right now. But it's like not embarrassing, and it's something that I'm trying to navigate as well, being able to sort of put it in there without sounding like egotistical as well, because it's something that I'm proud of, and I'm sure it's like music, like something you're proud of as well, and you definitely want to expand your horizon and get better and meet new people as well, and sort of be that person that people know you for. What's it like navigating that as well?
So a lot of it is like, there's a lot of stuff I do online as well. There's like cold emails. So that's a little bit detached from like meeting people in person. But when I meet people in person, it's kind of like I say, oh yeah, I'm audio producer, kind of just like chilling in terms of corporate work. And then if it comes up, I'll bring up the music as well. In terms of like the online sphere, it's like cold emails. There's a lot of what's it called, like an aggregator for like blogs, playlists, like music influencers, that sort of thing. You can like submit your music to them, just kind of, I feel like, just try and get them to cover you as much as possible. I feel like that's kind of more appropriate, where you can lead with like, hey, I'm a musician. But so it's kind of like this split between the digital realm and like the in-person realm, because I don't know, I still wouldn't lead with like, oh hey, I'm a musician. I kind of do like the same sort of thing. Well, I wouldn't do it, but my mate would do it. It's like, oh, Quan makes music. I'm like, hey,
there's a sign for you to walk around with a mate and they just like introduce you as like the musician or the podcaster.
He's got like my Spotify open.
Like, literally they've got it tattooed on their forehead or something.
So we'll just scan this real quick. Like
I love it so much. Quan, thank you for your time.
No worries.
I really do appreciate your story, and again, like I said at the start and even before we started recording, like I have looked up to sort of your journey. I know I don't explicitly say that or haven't explicitly said that until today, but yeah, you're someone that I've definitely connected with on that level of in terms of, you know, like we're at a very prestigious institution, or you were, I still am, and sort of navigating that narrative that is instilled on us. I admire your work, and I appreciate you for like sharing the music as well. I'm sure the listeners will heavily enjoy that. And in terms of your future, like it's looking bright, man. Like I wish you all the best in your endeavours, and it lights me up seeing people who are like giving it a crack and trying to put themselves out there and trying to make use of the privilege that we have and taking those opportunities to expand and do something for themselves in a selfish little way. But like why not, you know, like why not make the most of it. For the listeners as well, is there anything you'd love to like depart on or end on?
Just to go off that, there was like this Robin Williams quote from Dead Poets Society. It's like, he says, science, medicine, law, like those are all honorable pursuits. We should applaud people for doing them, but like things like poetry, romance, like the arts, those are things to live for. So yeah, I've been kind of going with that as well.
Beautiful. Some food for thought. Where can people find you, and sort of, give us a small timeline for what's to come? Yeah.
So you can find Jason Yen, me, on Spotify, Apple Music, just anywhere. Instagram, Jason Yen with a 0 for the O. Audio side, that's Father Joe, that's Jeaux. And my website as well, www.fatherjoe.com.
Amazing. All the links will be in the show notes below. Be sure to follow at Life is Lamb Podcast. We're spamming out some reels and everything. So get around the content. Would really appreciate it. And be sure to leave the show 5-star rating as well. And we'll catch you in the next episode. You.
Peace out.